Hi, everybody. I'm Chuck Enderlin, chair of the Coweta County Democratic Party. I want to thank all the candidates and all the participants tonight for coming and watching this wonderful candidate evening we're having in lieu of our annual Atkinson Arnall fundraising dinner. If you want more information about these candidates, you can go to our website, cowetademocrat.com. And we've got a good schedule here with a bunch of great candidates tonight. So a few quick ground rules before we get started. If you're one of the participants just watching and enjoying everything, please keep yourself on mute. If the candidates open themselves up and offer time for questions, go ahead and send those in the text chat to me. It's the chair, CCDP person in the text chat, and we'll make sure that they get asked if that candidate has time. Not all candidates will have time for this. Most of them have other places to be, and we thank them all for their very limited time we have. This is being recorded, so if you come in late or if you have to leave early, don't worry, you're going to be able to see it all on our YouTube channel once this is all done. And we do ask that everybody please remain respectful for the candidates. This is a great opportunity for them to share their message with us. And in this time of pandemic, we can't have our normal meetings, we can't have our normal dinners. For some of them, this is going to be the only chance they get to really directly connect with people in Coweta County. So please give them respect their time, give them that opportunity, let them say their message, and let's keep things positive because we have a bunch of great Democrats who are running tonight. We're going to hear a bunch of things that unite us, a bunch of good common themes. One of the things that helps unite us is that we are all Americans and we're all proud of this country that we live in. We just want to make it a little bit better. So if you're at home, sitting on the couch, or if you can stand, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance for the United States, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a bunch of very important elections tonight that we're going to talk about. One of the bigger ones, though, is in the United States Senate. What we have going on in Georgia right now is a unique situation. Senator Perdue's seat is already open. It's up for election this year anyways. John Ossoff is our nominee. John is extremely busy tonight and couldn't get away from his campaigning. Join us, unfortunately. He has come down to Coweta before, and he's a great campaigner, and he'll make a great senator. But we also have, because of the retirement of Senator Isaacson, a special election for the United States Senate. Now, in this special election, we have over 20 people running. If any of them gets 50% plus one, they're the next senator and finish out Senator Isaacson's term. If no one does, the top two, whether that's a Republican and a Democrat, or two Republicans or two Democrats, go on to a runoff, and the winner of that runoff will have that seat. We're going to start with that election right now. We're very fortunate to have the three leading contenders on that Democratic seat with us tonight. We have Reverend Raphael Warnock, Mr. Ed Tarver, and Mr. Matt Lieberman here tonight to talk with us. We're going to go in reverse alphabetical order and hear from all of these candidates. They're going to have 10 to 15 minutes to tell us about their campaign, whatever they want, whether they want to use that for themselves or for questions. And our first candidate is going to be Reverend Warnock. Reverend Warnock, are you ready for to meet the people of Coweta County?
I am, and I'm grateful to be here.
Thank you, sir. The floor is yours.
Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here with you tonight, even in a virtual space. I would love to be there with you in person, but certainly this is an act of love on all of our parts. We are finding ways to connect, right, virtually through social distancing in ways that keeps us all healthy and alive. And so that has to be the first thing. I'm Raphael Warnock. I'm deeply honored not only to be here with you tonight, but to be running for the United States Senate. It's not lost on me that someone like me is running for the US Senate. It speaks to the remarkable country that we live in and who we are at our best. I'm a kid who grew up down in Savannah, Georgia, in public housing. I'm one of 12 children in my family. I'm number 11, the baby next to the baby. My mom called me the knee baby. And I'm the first college graduate in my family. My family was short on money, but long on love and long on faith. My dad and my mother taught me the value of hard work. My dad was a veteran and a preacher and a small businessman. He preached in the pulpit of his little church on Sunday mornings on Gwinnett Street down in Savannah. But he spent most of his days working as a small businessman. He literally was a preacher and a junk man. My dad used to pick up old junk cars that other folks were giving away or sold to him for a few dollars. He'd load them on the back of a truck, the mechanisms of which he designed himself, and took them to the local steel yard. And that's how he took care of his family. And then on Sunday morning, the man who picked up cars that had been thrown away preached a gospel to people who themselves felt thrown away. And he taught them that they were indeed gifts to the world, and we all have something to contribute. I overheard that message, and I believed it. And so I decided I was going to college, that I wanted my life to mean something, and my parents encouraged me in that regard. I'm a post-civil rights generation baby. I was born after Dr. King's death, but I have to tell you, I was inspired by Dr. King from an early age as a kid. And I decided I was going to his alma mater. I was going to Morehouse College, a school that had a tradition of training young people, not only in terms of training the head, but tuning the heart, with this idea that your life ought to be used no matter what field you're in order to make a difference. And of course, Martin Luther King Jr. embodied that very clearly. And so I often say I went to Morehouse on a full faith scholarship. I didn't know how I was going to pay for the first semester, let alone 4 years, but I graduated. Went on to get 2 master's degrees and a PhD degree from Union Theological Seminary in New York. And 15 years ago, this very weekend, I returned to my home state of Georgia to become only the 5th senior pastor in Ebenezer's history, a church founded in 1886, and has always had activist preachers sitting at the helm. I've spent the last 15 years working on issues that I care about. I've been fighting for healthcare because I believe that it is a human right. And it is something certainly that the richest nation on the planet can and should provide for all of its citizens. So when President Obama was working to pass the Affordable Care Act, I was talking about it in my pulpit and in the public square. And when Georgia refused to expand Medicaid, leaving 400,000 Georgians in the Medicaid gap, I stood up by sitting down in the governor's office and refused to leave. And I and 39 or 38 other activists was arrested fighting for healthcare, laying it on the line in the best of the activist tradition. I thought that was a small price to pay for me to go to jail for a few hours when I thought about my fellow citizens in the Medicaid gap, folk who weren't poor enough to get Medicaid, but were too poor to afford private insurance. And all Georgia had to do was check yes and say, yes, we'll expand Medicaid in this state. Now we're dealing with COVID-19, and we've got over 500,000 Georgians in the Medicaid gap. Moreover, 7 of our hospitals in the last 10 years have closed, in part because we refused to expand Medicaid, and 2 more have announced that they will close. We need a senator who will bring a moral message to the framing of our public policy discussions in this nation, who knows how to bring people together across racial lines, who knows how to build multiracial, multi-faith coalitions with people who claim no faith tradition at all, but are people of moral courage. We need a senator who will stand up for ordinary people who feel like no one in Washington is looking out for them. I've spent my time doing that work. And that's why in 2017, I went to the US Capitol. I had not yet been elected a US Senator. That's going to change in just a little while. But I made my case along with other activists in the rotunda of the US Capitol. And in 2017, you remember they were giving a $2 trillion tax giveaway to the richest of the richest of the rich. while taking money away from the Children's Health Care Program, from SNAP, from those who need it the most. And so I stood in the US Capitol before anybody elected me, before I was even thinking about running. I had no idea the seat would be available this year. I stood up in the Capitol because it's right. And I said then that a budget is not just a fiscal document, it's a moral document. A budget says who we think is important and who's not, who matters and who doesn't. And that if this budget that you all are getting ready to pass were an EKG, it would suggest that our country has a heart problem. And so we came to shake the conscience of the nation, and the Capitol Police arrested me again. I'm running for the US Senate because I want to give the Capitol Police one more opportunity to escort me. This time, not the central booking, but to my new office as the next United States Senator from the state of Georgia, the greatest state in our union, so that I can fight for health care because I care about it. Fight for voting rights because I believe that your vote is your voice and your voice is your human dignity. Along with Stacey Abrams, who has endorsed me, I've been registering voters for years in this state. We registered 400,000 new voters through the New Georgia Project, which I've chaired. My church has raised money to bail poor people out of jail who were there not because they were dangerous, but there because they couldn't afford to bail before seeing a judge. I've organized to fight for criminal justice reform because all of our citizens have to believe us when we say equal protection under the law. And so this is just some of the work that I intend to do. Certainly we've got to fight for our planet and leave a planet that's worthy of the promise of our children. I'm a dad, I've got 2 small kids. They're gonna be all right, you know, chances they'll be okay because their dad is well-educated, and I've been able to make a life of myself, but in a real sense, I know that my children will not be okay until other people's children are okay. And so I hope that the people of Georgia will give me the great honor of representing them in the United States Senate, and you have my promise. I'll work hard every day. I'm grateful that as we have been crisscrossing across the state, people are hearing our message. We're gaining momentum. And I'm the front runner in this race, not the front runner among Democrats. I'm the front runner, period. And I think people are responding to our message. And we have the endorsements of elected officials who see that grassroots movement, and they're responding to that. And so I'm grateful for President Obama's endorsement. I'm grateful that Jimmy Carter, who turned 96 today, endorsed me. I'm grateful that almost every Democratic state legislator in the state has endorsed me. And so I'm happy to be here with you tonight and happy to respond to any questions that you might have.
All right. Reverend Warnock, again, thank you so much. It was wonderful to hear you at the last state dinner we had in 2019, where you gave the invocation. And I was one of probably about 500 people that came up to you and told you should consider running. So when you are elected the next senator, I'm going to go ahead and take a small piece of that credit. So one of the questions that Cherished Privilege is going to take, and for Mr. Tarver and Mr. Lieberman, if y'all are watching, you can expect a similarly worded first question if you take them. So Reverend Warnock, you announced today that y'all took in $12.8 million in the last quarter. Can you let everybody know how that's, what that money is going to be used for, what we can expect to see out of you, and how that prepares you for that fight, not just in the first election, but probably in a runoff coming up in January?
Yes, we raised $12.8 million this quarter alone, and I'm proud of that. I'm a first-time candidate. I think it is a vote of confidence from people because we have among that $12.8 million is 500,000 distinct contributions or contributors. And so that is also important. It suggests the breadth and the depth of people's investment in this campaign because they know that we can win this race. It takes money to compete statewide. I wish money wasn't so important in politics, and that's something that I hope to address when I get to the Senate. But know that my values are there, which is why I'm not taking any corporate PAC money. So so let me say that's what's not in that number. There's no corporate PAC money in that number. And it's support all across the state and also from people who know how important Georgia is. I hear what you're saying about the runoff. And so we're raising money, getting ready for the runoff, because you wouldn't be very smart if you didn't prepare for it. You got to prepare for the runoff, because if you end up in it, you need to be already getting set. But I would like to win this race outright. And we're working hard to do that. And here's why. That became very important 2 weeks ago or a week ago when Justice Ginsburg passed away. The Supreme Court is critically important. And it seems that they are determined to bulldoze their way through this nomination process. If we continue to gain steam and momentum in this movement, and I can win this outright, I think it's remarkable that I'm ahead of Kelly Loeffler right now. She's the richest member of Congress. She spent millions of dollars, and I'm ahead of her. If we can win it outright, because it's the special election, I get seated right away, which means there is a conceivable scenario in which I'm sitting there voting through this nomination process during the lame duck, depending on when the nomination comes up. So, as well as other issues. So we've got a lot invested in this, folks, and it's my sincere hope that I'll be able to represent the people of Georgia at this important time.
Thank you for that answer, Reverend Warnock. And kind of touched on it a little bit, but kind of that second follow-up question. Again, if we have time for 2 questions, this is going to be very similar. Like I said, I'm a military veteran, like Jimmy Carter, a great Naval Academy graduate. But one of the things that we're taught to do is to look forward and see what the dangers are ahead. From my perspective, the danger is if we elect Joe Biden, when we elect this great slate of senators, but we have a 6-3 Supreme Court. Reverend Warnock, can you give us an idea of what steps you would want to see pursued to try to bring some of those Democratic policies, not just to the president's desk, but also so that they can survive the inevitable Supreme Court challenge?
Well, I think we have to work really hard to bring people together. I think folks have a hard time imagining that because our politics have become so toxic and so deeply personal these days. Folks waste no time, leveling personal attacks. Too often our politics is more about the politicians than the people. And so what I hope to do is bring the empathy and the spirit of a pastor to the work of legislation and the work of public policy, and not to demonize people who have a different point of view than mine. I intend to be robust in my representation of our values, but always to insist upon the humanity of my opponents. And I think that at least gives us a chance to get things done.
Reverend Warnock, again, thank you so much for the time you've given us tonight. For the people of Coweta, this is one of the 3 people we have running for us in the United States Senate special election. Like I said, one of 3, though. We also have Mr. Ed Tarver. I saw him online earlier with us. Mr. Tarver, are you ready to tell the people you came and visited us with us before one of our general meetings? We thank you for that. And thank you for coming back again tonight. Can you tell the people of Coweta County what's going on, why you're running, how you're going to win this race?
Certainly. Thank you for having me again. Good evening, Coweta County Democrats. I'm delighted to be here with you again. It was my honor. It's my honor to participate in the Atkinson Arnall Candidate Forum. As you know, I've already taken advantage of the opportunity to meet with you virtually to share information about my background and my experience in government. My campaign for the U.S. Senate is based upon my commitment to public service, my vast experience, and I invite you to visit my website at www.tarverforsenate.com for any additional information that you may have missed or maybe I didn't cover during my initial visit with you. But it certainly will provide you with some information about my record of community and public service to our state and to our nation. We all know about the challenges that Georgia families have endured during 2020. Our state and our nation have been challenged by a global pandemic that has caused over 200,000 deaths in the US. We've been plagued by the greatest economic downturn in decades. Thousands of small businesses have closed, many never to reopen again. We have experienced massive unemployment, the loss of individual health care by millions across the country. And as Reverend Warnock indicated earlier, many rural hospitals in our state have closed. And that doesn't include recent additional challenges that we have encountered, the widespread national protests in response to unjustified deaths at the hands of police. We recently are dealing with and currently dealing with the passing of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg and the likely reshaping of the Supreme Court for the years to come because of the Republicans' push to fill that seat and to call for a vote before the November general election. We've also been stunned by the current president, by Donald Trump's refusal to commit to a peaceful transition of power after the election. And we've also experienced here just recently a new wave of national protests after the indictments or the lack of indictments in the Breonna Taylor incident in Kentucky occurred. I continue to be a candidate in this special election because I want to help turn Georgia blue. This week's presidential debate provided clear evidence that we are in a battle for our democracy. I truly believe that this is the most consequential election of my lifetime. And maybe you may agree with me that it applies to you as well. It will not be enough for a Democrat to merely make it into a runoff. We must elect a Democrat that is prepared and has the experience to provide bold leadership in the US Senate starting on day one. A Democrat must win this election and turn the US Senate blue. I believe that my record of proven leadership makes me uniquely qualified to represent Georgia in the US Senate at this pivotal moment in our history. I'm ready to take the fight to Washington. I would be honored to earn your vote. And if I am fortunate enough to earn your vote, I will not forget the important work that I started as one of Georgia's United States attorneys in the Southern District of Georgia. I will continue to support law enforcement to keep our community safe. And I will also ensure that available resources are available to law enforcement to protect Georgians from those who would do us harm. However, I will also fight to hold police accountable for excessive force and misconduct. I will seek legislation to reverse the devastating effects of mass incarceration that has resulted in our country, in the United States, incarcerating over 2.3 million of its own people, more than any other country on the planet. I will fight to end systemic racial and religious discrimination in law enforcement practices and procedures. I believe that these practices and procedures threaten the citizen trust and confidence in our criminal justice system, and that we must address that issue as quickly as possible. I will also lead the fight to reauthorize the Violence Against Women Act. Too many times, violence against women is swept under the rug or resolved by the frontline law enforcement officials who arrive at the home without a woman ever having an opportunity to be heard about the mistreatment and abuse that she has received. I will also fight to expand the national education standard from a K-12 standard to a K-16 standard that includes college. I will lead the charge to ensure that all Georgians have access to health care. And I will be a champion for reproductive rights, and I will combat Georgia's maternal mortality crisis that kills Black and rural women at rates 3 to 4 times higher than their counterparts in other states. Of course, I will also prioritize agriculture, our state's #1 resource, by supporting the Green New Deal. And most importantly, I will be a champion for Georgia families and the middle class. I won't need on-the-job training. I know what needs to be done. And I ask that you join us in this fight by doing a couple of things. I ask that you help by signing up at www.tarverforsenate.com to help our campaign. and by bringing 5 friends with you to the polls on October the 12th when early voting begins. We have a tough road ahead of us. As has been mentioned earlier, money plays a large part in these elections. And I am not one of the candidates, one of the 2 candidates that has spent millions of dollars on their campaign. Mine is truly a grassroots effort. I've been crisscrossing the state in my Chevrolet Tahoe with myself, and many times just me and myself and my wife. But we are making great strides. Folks are responding to our grassroots message, and I believe that Georgians are encouraged by the fact that we are pushing to provide strong, proven leadership in the U.S. Senate to represent Georgia. So I thank you again for allowing me to be here with you this evening. I certainly would like to answer any questions that you may have at this time. Thank you.
Well, as promised, Ed, the first 2 questions are going to be remarkably similar to what Reverend Warnock faced and what Mr. Lieberman are going to face. The first one, can you give us an update? The quarter just closed. The reports obviously aren't due until October 15th. By that point, early voting will have started. Can you give us an update on what we can expect to see when your financial report is filed, and how you're going to use that, how you're going to use those resources to continue the fight both in November and into a possible runoff in January?
Our quarter just ended. We're still tabulating, but we expect to have raised over $125,000 this quarter, not the $12.8 million that my opponent has raised. But we've raised that individually, going to at the grassroots level. We've received no PAC money, received no national money, received no support from the DSCC. We've received no support from any other union or any other organization that typically gets is in the business of supporting candidates. I'm not embarrassed by that or disappointed by any means. It just means that my campaign has had to focus on speaking to voters many times, 1 or 2 or 5 at a time. And as I indicated earlier, it's certainly proving to be effective for our campaign. We are hitting, in addition to focusing our efforts in the Atlanta area where roughly 40% of the votes exist, we have embraced a One Georgia campaign. And we have been to just about every county in the state. We were recently up in Stevens County in Toccoa, been down to Effingham County near Savannah. We've been in Chatham County in Savannah. I spent the day recently in Albany. The response in all of those visits has been just tremendous. And folks are concerned about the fact that they recognize that for a position like the U.S. Senate, a position in the highest deliberative body in our government, that some preparation should have been undertaken to prepare a person to assume that role, and that experience does matter. So as I pointed out in my opening comments, that if the presidential debate this past week wasn't sufficient evidence for you to show that experience matters and what happens when a person assumes high office in this country without adequate preparation, we're seeing it live and firsthand right now.
Thank you for that update, Mr. Tarver. Second question, you mentioned a lot about your priorities, how you're going to work on police reform, ending mass incarceration, and you brought up the Violence Against Women Act, which the renewal of that I think is especially timely given the, quite frankly, likely confirmation of another justice who would be completely opposed to authorization of the Violence Against Women Act. We would be set with a Supreme Court with almost a majority that views women as property more than as people. So what measures would you support, and how do you plan to defend things like the reauthorization of a Violence Against Women Act from action by the Supreme Court to negate it?
Well, I think that this would be a case where it would help to have someone with a legal background. One of the things that we have heard about the nominee is her intellectual background, that she's a scholar. She has written a lot on a number of these subjects that she will face in the court. And I think the best strategy that we're going to have to use is to use the law. There's been a lot of talk about Democrats responding by packing the court. I'm opposed to that. As a former state legislator, I'm familiar with politicians, elected officials who move quickly with one intention in mind, and it has an unintended consequence. I think that before we take a drastic step like packing the court, that we ought to consider that carefully, because it could. There are a number of unanticipated consequences that could happen that will have a long impact on this country. And I don't think that enough discussion, enough debate, or enough consideration has gone into that issue. I know that we're all concerned and frustrated about the situation that we find ourselves in, and about the speed in which the Trump administration, President Trump, has nominated someone to replace Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And we're also concerned about the speed in which Mitch McConnell was proceeding to call a vote. But I think that this is the time that cooler and calmer heads should prevail, that we should rely on the intellectuals in our party, the lawyers, those who are familiar with our constitutional process, and make sure that we develop a strategy that's going to have a long-term benefit for all Americans, and not just an immediate, a quick, immediate response that may satisfy our anger right now, but may have long-term consequences.
Thank you for those that thoughtful answer and that honest answer. We've got about 3 minutes, just enough time for one more question, and it's something that's kind of dear to my heart. When I was out protesting with our local Black Lives Matter movement, one of the things we kept harping on is how local elections matter if we're going to do things like changing qualified immunity laws for police officers. Can you briefly give us your thoughts on either keeping or altering qualified immunity laws that affect our police forces?
Well, as you probably already know, qualified immunity is a judicially created doctrine. I believe that it certainly can be addressed very quickly legislatively, and probably the best place to address it would be in the U.S. Senate. I believe that we should move as quickly as possible to hold law enforcement accountable when misconduct, when excessive force has occurred. That's what we're hearing across the country. People are demanding that we do something to address those practices and procedures that are resulting over and over again in the death of individuals in the hands of law enforcement, and particularly African-American men who are dying at the hands of law enforcement. And the fact that what we saw here recently in Kentucky, where the Attorney General basically suggested that he was powerless to do anything to hold these individuals accountable for the death of an innocent citizen who was not the target of their investigation. It merely shows more that something needs to be done quickly and as soon as possible to address police accountability in our law enforcement practices.
Mr. Tarver, again, thank you so much for joining us, not just tonight, but also previously for one of our meetings. It's been great to have you. It's great to see men of character like you stepping up and running and trying to take that mantle of justice forward for us all. Good luck with your efforts. Thank you for continuing the fight, and thank you for stepping up to run for United States Senate.
Thank you for having me this evening. Enjoyed being with you folks again. Thank you.
As mentioned, we have three of our leading special Senate candidates. We've been able to go in reverse alphabetical order, and that takes us to Matt Lieberman. Mr. Lieberman is joining us tonight, I believe. And Matt, are you ready to go? Oh, saw him log in there. We'll see. Make sure. There we go.
Yes. Yes.
All right, Matt. Matt, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's a pleasure to have you with us for the only opportunity, unfortunately, I think we're going to get to be in Coweta and to connect with Cowetans directly. Sir, you have 15 minutes. The floor is yours to use as you want. Thank you for coming here.
Well, it's great to be with you, and I wish I could be with you in person, and may the day come soon where that will be possible. I know we're going to get there. Hey, we got a big election coming up. We have tremendous opportunity here in Georgia to flip both of these U.S. Senate seats and really to be the place in the United States that flips the United States Senate blue, which would make a world of difference in so many ways in our lives day in and day out. I am proud to be running. I'm humbled by this opportunity. I ask for your vote and for your support and for your honesty with me here in the campaign, and I hope as your senator as well. Like more and more of us over the last 10, 15, 20 years, I am a Georgian by choice. I moved here 15 years ago. Pretty much the rest of my life, I had lived up in Connecticut, in New Haven, Connecticut. I am a lawyer by training, like Ed, except Ed has actually had a career in law. I loved law school, never really thought I wanted to practice law. And in fact, the first part of my career was in education. I started off running a program in the New Haven, Connecticut public schools called I Have a Dream. And then I taught English at my old high school. And then we came here to Georgia, to Atlanta specifically, 15 years ago, and I was hired to be the principal of one of the larger Jewish elementary schools in Georgia, 450 student K through 8 school. So that's what brought us here. And just as the story is for so many people, you know, Georgia was not necessarily on our radar, but a job brought us here, and the quality of life has kept us here. And the metro Atlanta area is great, and the state is a diverse and beautiful place. So, so we have stayed. So that's my background, a lawyer by training. First half of my career in education, second half of my career after, around 10 years ago, I started a small business in the insurance world, helping to put together group insurance plans, group benefits plans for medium-sized employers. So I have a good sense of that issue, which is obviously so important. And the other thing that's been the focus of my life really most of the last 20 years is I've been the primary or solo parent for my two daughters, who are now 23 and 21, and beautiful and great and doing great things. So I am not a professional politician, but as you all are probably aware, I grew up in politics. My dad's Joe Lieberman, who was the Democratic vice presidential candidate in 2000, senator from Connecticut. And I know I would be able to hit the ground running for the people of Georgia. And I know what the sort of various potential pratfalls are of life in the Senate. It's very easy to get distracted, shall we say. There are a lot of good intentions that don't make it all the way from your home state to the Capitol. And I would be focused from day one on working for you. I'm running as a fed up citizen of Georgia and for the fed up citizens of Georgia, which I think is most of us. Our government is a mess. You didn't even have to see that ridiculous debate with Trump, you know, being Trump, you couldn't be that surprised to know that. It's a mess. And I'd say it's broken in at least three ways I want to talk about. First, here in Georgia, and really specific to Georgia, we have this unusual and let's make it end situation here where we are not represented in the most basic way. We're not represented by our United States senators. Kelly Loeffler is out of step and out of sync with what we care about on most of the important issues that we all think about. Doug Collins is way out of step. David Perdue is way out of step. It's like a dysfunction of democracy. Now look, these folks are there because, as we all know, Georgia has been steadily moving in a democratic direction. It's almost like they're relics from a conservative time, a more Republican time in our state's history, and we're trapped under them. There's no reason for that, and we can change it. Look, it's not just me and you. It's not just the activists. It's not just people who are dyed-in-the-wool Democrats who the Republicans are out of step with. It's a big majority of our fellow Georgians. You know, it's not just us here. It's all of us who want universal quality health care. We don't want senators who want to legislate or litigate Obamacare out of existence. Voting rights. Can you believe we're still talking about voting rights in 2020? Well, you know what? Most Georgians can't believe it. It's just this Georgia GOP that's out of step. We got to get rid of them. A woman's right to choose. Georgia wants Roe v. Wade to remain the law of the land, and I'll vote to codify it in anticipation of one of your questions coming up if I'm your United States Senator. That is taken care of. Let's deal with other big issues we have to deal with. Climate change is real. We need senators who admit that it's a problem, admit that we have something to do with it, and are ready to fix it. Education, on and on and on and on. These folks are out of step with us. It's like a dysfunction of democracy. And what's the solution? Vote them out and vote one of us in. And I believe I have the best chance to defeat either Doug Collins or Kelly Loeffler one-on-one in January. So that's one problem we have, and that's one solution. Second problem, our government's broken in Washington. You know, many of you may remember from your high school history classes, Harry Truman in 1948 ran for re-election, running against what he called the Do-Nothing Congress. That was a criticism. Now you have Mitch McConnell, the Senate Majority Leader, who actually brags about doing nothing. How can that be a point of pride? Doing nothing, basically just taking taxpayer money, putting it in your pocket as a salary and just running out the clock. It's unacceptable. And we have to do better. And the most basic way to get our government active for us again is to flip the Senate. It's the same solution. And we have such a hand in bringing that to fruition here in Georgia. We've just got to seize this opportunity to flip the Senate. A third way I feel the government is broken is that, look, in this race, there are 4 top candidates. 3 of them, Reverend Warnock, Kelly Loeffler, Doug Collins, really were placed in their position as top candidates by 1 or 2 people in Washington or Atlanta. Now, good for them, all right? But the only problem is that what that means is that whatever they say, they know why they are in the position they're in. And if they are elected, they will be beholden to folks other than us. If I'm elected, if Ed Tarver's elected, if one of the other 8 Democrats is elected, we will be beholden to you and only to you. That is who we will work for 100% of the time. There will not be any question about it, and we deserve that. We deserve that, you deserve that. And that's my promise to you. The last thing I will say is this is an extraordinary time, and we need extraordinary politics. We need people with the courage to find the common ground, with the courage to compromise. It's not an exciting notion, compromise. It doesn't make the hair on your arm stand up. But the fact is, what's the point if nothing gets done? And that's where we are in Washington now. Not only is compromise hard, but people in each party are afraid to compromise because they're afraid they'll get primaried next time around by someone who can just tweet up a primary at them. We need a leader, and I will be that leader who has the courage to find the common ground, to reach my arm across the aisle and find people we can work with to get things done. We need adults in the room who will lead like that. And our challenges are huge, and that's all the more reason why we need it. There's an opportunity gap in this country, and this is the last thing I'll say. The fact is, if you are white and upper middle class or higher, it's hard to fail in America today. However, if you're black or anything else, not white, or white and middle class or lower, it's hard to make it. And it hasn't been like that in our country in any of our memory. This is the land of opportunity. This is the land that gave the name, obviously, to the American dream. We have to realize that there are blockages in our biggest systems, education, the economy, healthcare, justice, that we need to address to allow everyone to participate fully in the promise of our society. It is like a cancer on America for people to be blocked out of taking those first steps up the ladder of the American dream. And I will support policies that enable people to get going on their own particular American journeys. So I'm happy to be here with you. We can win. I know I can win. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Matt, again, thank you so much for coming in and sharing your vision with us tonight and sharing your campaign with us tonight. As promised, the first question, the third quarter just closed for financial reporting today. The reports won't be out until after early voting starts. Can you give us a preview, an idea of how you did this quarter, what we're looking at, and how your resources are going forward, not just into November, but also into a potential runoff in January?
Yeah, so I mean, we probably raised around the same we did the last quarter, something over $250,000. Not a lot. It's a challenge. Like Ed said, he and I and others were sort of going against a headwind, raising money. But we have, through really excellent polling and data analytics, very specifically identified who my most persuadable voters are, and we're going right at them. We're advertising, we're on the air now digitally in an intense way at our target voters, and we'll continue to do that, and hopefully over the final 5 weeks we'll do even more of it. But as far as what happens after November, the truth is that's not the financial challenge. Whichever of us, whether it's Reverend Warnock, me, whoever else, emerges into the final two going to January, that candidate, like John Ossoff 3 years ago in the 6th Congressional District, will have more money than he or she could ever need, because it'll be the only race going in the country. Every Democrat in the country will toss in $10. So that's not a concern. Look, the challenge for my campaign, obviously, is getting into the top two. So we feel we can do it. Not easy, but we feel we have a path that we've identified, and we're pursuing it aggressively.
Thank you for that answer and for your honesty. Second question, you mentioned Roe v. Wade and being a supporter of it. With the likely confirmation of Justice Barnett, we're going to have at least 4 people who have expressed outward negativity towards Roe v. Wade and keeping that on the books. Even if we pass a law codifying it, like you said, what steps are you going to take, or how are we going to make sure that it's not merely just overturned immediately by the Supreme Court?
Well, I don't believe there is any question that the Congress could pass a law of that sort to codify Roe v. Wade. Even if Roe v. Wade, God forbid, were overturned now, it would just mean that each state would have its own law, would be free to have its own law within certain parameters. And that would be very bad news for Georgia, obviously, because we have this crazy 6-week abortion law that was overturned based on Roe v. Wade. But the federal government, if we pass a federal law, it's my understanding that that's the law of the land, unless, and given the combative era we're in, I'm sure arguments would be made that Congress went beyond its authority to pass a law like that. But we have, in certain instances, we have federal laws related to health issues. The federal government can pass laws that affect things like this that are of national application. So that is a way to take it out of the Supreme Court's jurisdiction, in effect. And so that's why and as if you remember from the debates, so many or all of the Democratic presidential candidates also said they would support codifying Roe v. Wade. So it becomes federal law and not subject to the Supreme Court knocking it down and saying that the Constitution doesn't cover it. It'll now be a case of indisputable federal law.
Thank you, Matt, for that answer. We've got about 30 seconds. Can you plug that website for us one more time so people know where to go to donate or volunteer?
Yes, LiebermanForSenate.com, F-O-R, not the number. LiebermanForSenate.com. Go there. I could use your help. We're headed into the 4th quarter of this campaign. I'm confident we're going to emerge with a strong candidate, and I'm confident that candidate will do well in January, and I feel I'm in the best position to win this for us in January. And it's great to be with you virtually, and again, I look forward to being able to be with you in person.
Matt, thank you so much for coming and being here with us tonight. Hopefully we do get a chance to see you again virtually. This has been a great opportunity for the people of Coweta to interact, to meet, and to hear from those Senate candidates in that important special election. We do have sample ballots up on our website now, or will be as soon as I'm done with this and upload them. If you look at those sample ballots, when you get to that Senate special, one of the things you'll notice is that we don't make a selection on that. There's no circle filled in. The party cannot endorse a candidate who has Democratic opposition. And that is all three of the gentlemen that you just heard speak, as well as 8 other people who are running for Senate. So do your research, take a look at who you want, and make that informed decision when you go vote, whether that's by absentee voting, early in-person voting, or on election day voting. We recommend voting early via your absentee ballot. The good news is, though, we can make endorsements and help you out on a lot of these other elections that are on the ballot. The first of those is for our 3rd congressional district representative to the United States Congress. Now, this is the seat that I ran for last year. I'm aware of the challenges and the difficulties that come with this, but also with the opportunities we have to replace someone that is as generic Republican as you could get and as boring as you could ever hope for if you're a Republican. But he's challenged by someone who has a great resume, who, like Mr. Lieberman, is not just a Georgia transplant like Mr. Lieberman, but is also an American transplant. He understands the struggles that so many of us face, and he has the heart and the compassion to give back for us. Please welcome again, after he came and visited with us last month, Dr. Val Almanord, the Democratic nominee for the United States Congress in Georgia's 3rd Congressional District. Dr. Almanord, thank you again for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Chuck. Thank you, Coweta County. Thank you, Democrats. I am glad to be here. Well, my name is Val Almanord, and I will be your next congressman. I am confident with your help that I will be elected. As Chuck said, I am an immigrant. I came to the United States in 1969. I landed in New York, where I went to school, do my high school and college. But something happened to me. I fell in love with this country. This is the greatest country in the world. And myself, if you like something, you need to defend it, you need to protect it. So after I graduated from college, I joined the Army. Some say I was crazy, but I love it. After a while time in the Army, then I went to medical school. After medical school, I went to continue to serve. So I went to practice in a medically underserved area for 4 years. And after that, I joined the military healthcare on the Air Force. After 5 years in the Air Force, I transferred to the Army. And that landed me in Fort Benning, Georgia. And I stayed there for 35 years of service. I retired 2 years ago. While I was there, I went to Troy State to get a master's degree in healthcare administration. I'm a born servant. I love to serve my country. A lot of friends and colleagues tell me, hey, you are a doctor who makes a lot more money in private practice. But I choose to serve my country. I choose to continue to serve. While I'm still in Fort Benning, I was still active in politics in Muscogee County. I was a delegate to Georgia Democrat Party, and also I was a vice chair to the Muscogee County Democratic Committee. I like to serve, and I want to continue to serve. I look around, I see how the Georgia families difficult to survive today economy. I look around, I see how the COVID-19 exposed the inequality between the haves and the have-not, between the white and the brown and the blacks. COVID-19 is a virus that exposed what happened. More brown and black people die from the COVID-19 because most of us has what you call complication or underlying problem, medical problems. And why do we have that? Why does the white has the same underlying problem we have? We have the same anatomy, the same physiology. Well, most of the black or brown people, they don't go regularly to the doctor. Physical examination. The doctor might find out, hey, you got a little high blood pressure. He tell you, well, don't eat too much salt anymore. And that could resolve it. He might find you got high cholesterol. He say, well, don't eat this, don't eat that. He might resolve it. He might have having diabetes. He say, well, too much sugar. And that's the underlying problem you have. But you have to go for preventive care. You don't go for preventive care because you can afford to go. You don't have good health insurance. And even if you're working, you make minimum wage. Since you don't have no pain, you're not going to pay the doctor. Well, you still have to pay your rent. You have to pay your feed your children. It's hard for somebody to tell you, oh, go to the doctor, because you have nothing hurting. And that's something, if I got elected, I will make sure that I either sponsor or support a bill that would provide quality access care, quality healthcare access to all Georgians at affordable costs. Drug prescription also at the affordable cost, because right now the Medicare cannot go to the big pharmaceutical company and say, hey, this is too expensive. Why? Because Congress stopped them. The big lobbyists in Washington stopped them from doing that. And Medicare is the biggest buyer of drugs. It should be able, Medicare should be able to negotiate with a big pharmaceutical company to decrease the price of prescription. And I will see that Medicare can do that. My opponent supports the administration efforts to take away your health care, weakening Social Security, dismantle Medicare and Medicaid. And right now in the middle of the pandemic, there's a bill in front of the Supreme Court to repeal Obamacare. When you need to send someone to Congress, someone go there to make sure that events, we cannot stop Supreme Court from repeal it, but we can introduce another bill right away. I look around and talking to people in the district, education seems to be a problem, especially in the rural area. We have a school, different type of school. You have some school with a high quality education, some school we don't. That depends on where the school is located. I think that should change. Should get every student a chance to get good quality education. Broadband internet. Right now, because of the COVID virus, they send the kid home. They say, okay, go home. You do your homework at home. But some of them could not do it because they do not have broadband internet. Or some who have broadband internet, they could not, it's not good enough for them. It's not strong enough for them to do any homework on it. Another subject that I care about is the systemic racial injustice. Just like healthcare, just part of it. The police is part of it. You know, it's far more likely for a young black man or black or brown man to end up in jail or to get abused by the police. It's a fact. However, I think we can solve that problem by reforming the police. by reforming the police, restructure the police. That should start at the beginning, at recruitment. Every single law enforcement officer or police should be investigated and vetted by the GBI first to see if it's not part of some previous hit group before you join the law enforcement. And the police officer or the law enforcement officer should reside in the community where he serves. It should be part of the community. Keep the money they pay right in the community. Don't go buy a house in the suburb or somewhere else and just come to work. You should stay there, pay the tax there, be part of the community. All right, Chuck, I want to save a little time to answer any questions you might have.
Dr. Almanord, thank you again for coming and talking with us and sharing your vision. First question, what's the website people can go to learn more about you, to donate, and to also volunteer for those phone banks that are going to be so critical going forward?
Well, you know, money, it's the heart of the campaign right now. I hope it wasn't like that. I hope I could have said, you know, I don't need money, but yes, I need it very much. You could go to almonordforcongress.com. Almonord, that's ALMONORD for Congress, FOR Congress.com. Any donation is welcome. And I appreciate even $1, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Yep, thank you, Val. We do have time for one more quick one. You mentioned a lot about, you know, obviously you've got a background as a medical doctor and all your work in that. You mentioned how the COVID crisis has impacted America and specifically the African American community. As Joe Biden pointed out the other night, it's claimed the lives of 1 in 1,000 African Americans. So when we elect you to Congress and healthcare reform starts coming up, can you tell us a little bit more about where you see that going, whether that's a public option or a full single payer solution for us?
Now, the way I see it, the healthcare bill is passed, make it affordable to anyone who wants it. If you want it, you should have it. But if you already got your private insurance and you're happy with it, you should be able to keep it. You want to keep you happy with your private insurance, okay, that's fine. But if you're not happy with it, or you need it, or you want it, you should be able to have it, and it should not be too expensive, regardless of your income. You should be able to have it, and you should provide you the same amount of coverage that the private insurance provides you.
All right, Dr. Almanord, thank you again for joining us tonight and sharing with us your vision for the United States Congress and how you can represent the 3rd Congressional District better than Representative Ferguson can do for us. We appreciate you running, especially coming from me. I know exactly the strain and the toil this puts on you, especially in the month of October. I can't imagine doing that in the middle of a pandemic and in the middle of all the virtual education we're doing and everything else. So again, thank you for stepping up to the plate. Thank you for running hard for us. And thank you for fighting for the people of Georgia so that we can have a better future.
Thank you, Chuck, I appreciate it.
Our next set of races, we have, we've talked about the federal races, and those get all of the attention. Everybody wants to go out and vote for president, and that's the first race. And everybody's going to want to vote for John Ossoff, and that's the second race. And that Senate special is right next to it. But there's a couple other races that really impact us locally a lot more and a lot more directly, quite frankly, than the presidential races or the Senate races or even the congressional races. The first round of those is going to be our county commissioner races. Now, Coweta County is split into 4 commissioner districts. They're up every 2 years, either 2 or 3 of them will be up. This year we have 3 districts up for election, and we have 2 great Democratic nominees, one of them running as an incumbent, one of them running as a challenger. First, I'd like to let our challenger speak. Dr. Pearl Presley, if you can unmute yourself and introduce yourself, let us know that you're on the line with us. Now, we do have Dr. Pearl Presley with us. We understand that there are some technical issues going on her end. We do have a video of her to show, and so we're going to do that right now.
Hello, Coweta County citizens. I'm Dr. Pearl Presley, a Democrat running for the office of Coweta County Commissioner, District 4. I'm a native Georgian, born and reared in Warren County, Georgia. Therefore, I'm a country girl. In 1967, my family relocated to Atlanta. And after many successful years in Atlanta, my husband and I decided that we wanted to build our retirement home not too far from Atlanta, since most of our friends and some of our relatives were still living here. So we began to search for land to build. And as we searched in suburban Atlanta, we searched east, west, north, and south. And we found a lovely neighborhood in Coweta County, and we built our retirement home. And that was 20 years ago that this happened. So I'm running for Coweta County Commissioner for several reasons. I want to ensure that we all work together for the betterment and unity of our country, of our county, excuse me. My desire is to help the citizens of Coweta County rise to higher heights with the inclusion and involvement of all who live here, including our constituents, government officials, and the general public, in a manner that's mutually beneficial to all. As Coweta County Commissioner, District 4, I plan to make a positive impact on the operation of our county in our efforts to adhere to the policies, procedures, and responsibilities for the overall day-to-day services and functions of our county. As representative of District 4, I will work diligently to help establish policies that equally represent all residents, and especially District 4. Considering the unprecedented and uncertain times we are experiencing, I want to be a voice of reason and hope as we come together and move forward in governmental functions and the roles we share, as well as in our personal lives as citizens of Coweta County. COVID-19 has significantly impacted lives and livelihoods, globally, nationally, and locally. I am dedicated and determined to gain favorable outcomes and winning results that will add value to the Coweta County Commissioner and to the citizens of this county as we build and maintain our society. My experience as a successful business owner and my leadership roles in civic, community, and professional organizations has prepared me to utilize those skills for the advancement of our county as a whole and for District 4. I am thoroughly equipped to effectively and efficiently serve on this Board of Commissioners. I will help to set attainable goals and objectives and strengthening our commitment to give of our time and expertise. So let me share some of my background with you so you will gain insight on my expertise in budgeting, communications, finance, personnel, and law. I've been in the real estate profession for more than 45 years. I'm a licensed real estate broker, and I have received multiple designations in real estate management. I'm the founder and CEO of E. Pearl Presley Realty Company, Inc., and I've managed and operated a successful real estate firm with 15 plus sales associates. I was the first woman to be elected president of the Empire Board of Realtors and the first woman to chair their board of directors. I'm a recipient of Pioneer Woman in Real Estate by the National Women's Council of the National Association of Real Estate Brokers, and Realtors of the Year for the Empire Board of Realtors and the National Association of Real Estate Brokers. Who's Who in Georgia, the Bronze Businesswoman of the Year by Delta Phi Lambda Sorority. I'm a member of the Links Incorporated alumna, a former member of the National Association of University Women, and the author of the book, You Are an Overcomer. I am an ordained minister of the gospel and pastor of New Deliverance Ministries, Inc. I attended Morris Brown College, where I majored in business administration, and Beulah Heights University, majoring in Christian counseling. I'm a graduate of Kingsway Christian University and Theological Seminary with a PhD in Christian counseling. As Coweta County Commissioner, District 4, I look forward to communicating with the citizens of my district. I will take the time to establish healthy relationships with fellow commissioners, the media, and constituents, as well as other government administrators, in order to appreciate the role and responsibilities that each entity brings to the full operation of Coweta County. Now, I know I can't win this race by myself. I need your help. So I'm asking for your support, your support and your vote. And you can go to my website, www.pearl4commissioner.wixsite, wixsite.com/mysite. Please volunteer and donate. May God bless you and your family. Thank you all.
The other race we have is Reverend Al Smith. Reverend Smith is the county commissioner for the 5th Commissioner District in Coweta County. That encompasses a lot of central Coweta and a large chunk of Noonan, including my area. So I have the wonderful ability to vote for Al Smith, knowing that I'm going to elect Democrats to the County Commission District this year. Al, the floor is yours. Can you give us an update on your race, how that's going, and also for people who don't know, just what the work of that county commission is and why it's so critical that we get out and vote?
All right, and good afternoon and good evening to everyone. I can see everyone who has checked in, and I know most of the names that I see, and I really appreciate what I've heard so far from the Senate candidates and from Val Arnall, who is running for the House of Representatives. I'm in my third term as the 5th District County Commissioner. I ran for office so that I could serve my district and my community. I was born and raised in Noonan and Coweta County, graduated from high school in 1971, attended college at Morehouse College to have a fine art degree. I went into business as a sign maker. Actually, I've been an artist and a sign person all the way through elementary school until now. And I saw a need in my district that I heard a lot of my fellow citizens and friends and neighbors complaining about how difficult it was to get service at the county and city level. And so I wanted to be of some kind of assistance to someone who could not understand a particular form for variance or a form for a sign permit, or you know, you got so much paperwork you got to go through, and then the people at the city and county level, they were so, I guess you could say, so unconcerned about people who came to the office. So I've been somewhat of a secret shopper when it comes to going in the city and county buildings. I still get stopped and questioned if I know where I'm going, or can I help you with anything? And I'm working hard to bring civility to our government structures, city and county. And what I would like to say is that we are rightly to be concerned about the presidential race and certainly the Senate race. And even though the House is controlled by Democrats now, these are very important positions and we need to be concerned about it. But what I want to say, because I'm really a local politician. We have greater power in the city to affect change than we do in any other area in our lives. There are city council seats that are coming due next year that can be won with 300 to 400 votes. And I think we should vote every election, and we should vote especially when we have local elections. We need to take our proper place in a red county. This is the time when we can really make a difference because of Black Lives Matter and because of the careless and unconcern of our national leaders, because we can see how callous and how mean-spirited these people are. I said to my wife, Kasavia, many a time, the county administration needs to reflect the demographic of the people who live in the county and in the city, and we should not rest, because the diversity is actually if you know anything about anything, diversity is the strength of this world. It is why the nation is as great as it is, and we are not fulfilling our natural duty in the city of Noonan and Coweta County by not participating in the political process and what is going on in our government and in society at large. So we have seats that are coming up. I know we have people who are in the Coweta County Democratic Party who have the verve, the nerve, and the swerve to run for office. I can tell you how to win and teach you how to play. Amen. Can I get a witness?
Amen, Reverend Al.
All right.
Thank you, Al, for that.
All right, Reverend Al, maybe I check with you.
Yes, sir. You can check with me. Chuck has my information, and I'll be glad to talk with you and work with you, and I will work for you. And that's what I do. I believe that we should have natural affection for one another. And I know I'm not gonna get many amens on that, but it's scripture. All right.
Okay, just send me your info. I'll be glad to.
Okay.
I think we should just be happy that unlike Tuesday night, everybody is being respectful of everybody else's time and letting them speak. So even though we may not be able to get to those unmute buttons as quick as we'd like to give you that amen, don't worry, we can fix that in post. But like Al mentioned, it's so important to vote in these local elections, and he harped on kind of my pet election. We have city council seats coming up in Noonan in 2021, including the mayor's election. Mayor Brady hasn't been challenged since most of us have been alive. So we have an opportunity to go out and do that and take that seat. The city council seats, like Al said, can be won with just a few hundred votes in a city of tens of thousands. The mayoral election can be won with just a couple thousand votes. If we turn out just the Democrats, just the people who pulled Democratic primary ballots and voted for whichever presidential primary they wanted, who voted for John Ossoff or Teresa Tomlinson or Sarah Riggs-Amico or any other Democratic primary, and forget to vote in the city elections. If we can pull just that group and get them to the polls, that's enough to win that mayoral election. That will be enough to win some city council seats. And if we take the mayor's office and if we take 2 city council seats, that's enough to change the direction of this city towards something that is more just, towards something that is more representative, and towards something that works better for all of us.
Okay, can I say, Chuck, that oftentimes we have things that are within our reach but out of our grasp. I can reach it, but I can't grab it. These seats are within our reach and our grasp. It's nothing that can prevent us from turning out. We should have residue from this massive turnout that is already started, and we should carry this wave. And it should be a COVID, another virus of righteousness. It needs to be a pandemic of righteousness and justice. And let it start in the city of Noonan and spread into Coweta County, and then into the regions of Georgia, into the state, and dare I say, into the nation and the world. I know we can do it. It's just you have to believe and you have to put some action on it. I'm finished now. I'm getting ready to mute myself.
I'm gonna give you that amen. And that's exactly right. That's what we've got to do. So many of the races that we see are drawn to be not competitive. In the smaller races, in those city council races, they could be drawn however they want, but when the turnout is low, if you turn out for people, you win. And that's what we can do. Like I said, it all starts locally. If we can win those city council races, we can make change starting right at home. But those are our 2 county commissioner races. Now, these races are up in even numbered years, the same years as U.S. Congress or Senate or President or the Georgia State Legislature. Now, in Coweta County, we have 4 state house members and we have 1 state senator that covers the entirety of the county. The state senate, unfortunately, is not really in play. I'm not sure if even mathematically, if we had a miracle, we could win it. I think we could, but it would be close. But the Georgia State House is very much in play. And when we're going into 2021 and 22 session, that's going to be a redistricting year. We're going to have the results of the census. Lines are going to be redrawn. People are going to be put on, lines are going to be moved streets over. I may be in a different district, but for right now, if we can elect Democrats under the Gold Dome and give Bob Trammell, who is the best representative I could ever ask for, about 14 more friends on his side of the aisle under the Gold Dome, we have a seat at the table in redistricting. We can influence those maps. We can make sure that when people go out and vote, they are getting the representation they vote for, and that we are no longer a state that votes 52% for Democratic representation and only receives about 40% of that Democratic representation. Now, we have 4 state house districts. Lynn Smith, unfortunately, is running unopposed. Part of the challenge in these districts is Georgia law requires that you live in those state house districts that you're going to run for. The good news is we have several candidates who are going to run in those races right now. When I got up here, looked earlier, I didn't see Jill Prouty on here right now. She's running for House District 71. Oh, there she is. Jill just popped into the chat. Jill, your timing is like a wizard. That's amazing. But we have Jill Prouty running in House District 71, Fred Robner running in House District 72, and my representative and my favorite representative, Bob Trammell, running in House District 132. You're going to get a chance to hear from all 3 of them to give us an update on their races and what we can do to help them win. We're going to go in district numerical order, even though I usually mess this up. I think, Jill, that's right, you're House District 71 and ready to go first?
I am. I just came off of, on Thursday nights, normally at 8 p.m., I do a Facebook Live event called What's Jill Reading? And tonight was really great because I got to discuss a banned book. It's Banned Books Week, by the way. And if you haven't read Slaughterhouse-Five, that's by Kurt Vonnegut. That's what I was talking about tonight. So I'm glad I showed up just in time. So the campaign has been an interesting one, hasn't it, with these strange times. What I could use to help with, how you could help me the most really is postcarding. I still have some postcards left, and I see Claudia and Alton are there, and they have some of my postcards. So if anyone wants to write postcards, I still have some left. Another big thing is lit drops. I have door hangers. You don't have to talk to people or go knocking on their door or have, get close to people. We're just leaving them at targeted addresses. And so those are my 2 big things right now. Of course, I'm still, donations are great, but really at this point, I need boots on the ground. I need, additional help getting out our materials. Thank you, Chuck. I love it. I love it. So it says, I read banned books. So that's one of the things I've told Chuck before too, by the way, is that if I ever come to your house, the first thing I do is I look at your bookshelves because I want to know what kind of person you are. I don't look in medicine cabinets. I look at your books and I judge you by that. So anyway, yeah, so at this point, as I said, if you want to help, if you're available on weekends to spend an hour in your own neighborhood, I would definitely welcome that, and that would be enormously helpful. And by the way, I just had my billboard went live out on I-85 South. I have a giant billboard right after Peachtree City before you get to the Sharpsburg and Collinsworth Road exits. So I'm really excited about that. So if you see it, let me know. They sent me a picture, but it was live this morning. So yeah, I guess that's it. If I hope that I did a forum with my opponent with the chamber that was virtual. I don't know if they've posted the link yet. Do you know, Bob? Don't know. So that's something that we will put out there as well. And just so you know, that was a really odd event. My opponent was very middle road and never mentioned the president's name once. And he almost was kind of listless compared to how he normally is. So, you know, I feel like we're gaining momentum. I feel like that our campaign is in a good position right now. And I'm really excited, and I appreciate all the support that Coweta Democrats have given me, both monetarily and helping me get the word out. So keep sharing my posts at jillforgeorgia.com and also Facebook. Like anything that we post and share it. You don't know how much, how effective that really is. We've seen our numbers really skyrocket over the last month or so. So, you know, it's working. So keep sharing, keep liking, and thank you.
Jill, thank you so much for joining us. For those of you who this is your first time meeting Jill, that's a shame. She's a fantastic candidate. She stepped up to run when this seat became a special election 2 years ago, and ran against Philip Singleton again. If you don't know anything about Phil, he's an Army veteran, but all the similarities between him and I end about there. He runs in terror of high schoolers wearing dresses, and that's his most prominent, unfortunately, his most prominent legislative move forward. It's so unpopular among Republican circles that even our state senator, Matt Brass, just holds his head and shakes it when when Phil's bills are brought up. So we have a chance to replace him with someone who can read books, who can understand complex things, who can do the work that needs to be done, and who cares about the people she represents. Jill's a fantastic campaigner, runs great races, and would make an absolute awesome upgrade under the Gold Dome if we can get it. So jillforgeorgia.com. Go there, volunteer, write some postcards, make some phone calls, call your friends, and help people get out there and vote. Jill, is there anything I missed or anything you want to add in?
Actually, apparently I missed a lot too, Chuck. I make this assumption that people know who I am. I'm so sorry. Just so you know, by profession, I'm a professional librarian, which is why I talk about books, and I love books. And I don't know why I assume people should know that. I guess I've been doing it so long. I'm also a small business owner in Coweta County. So those are, I juggle a lot of, I change hats a lot, and hopefully I'll be able to put on my my legislator hat as well. And I will also add, not only does he want to ban trans student athletes, but he also wants to ban books with House Bill 1041. So yeah, and I talked about that tonight on my What's Jill Reading. So tune in Thursday nights, Jill for Georgia, House 71 on Facebook Live, 8 o'clock Thursday nights. If you like to read, and I usually tie it in, like in this case, with some legislation or some issue that's going on right now. So anyway, thanks, Chuck.
Absolutely, Jill. Thank you for joining us tonight. We'll try to find that video and link it to the website. And do you have an I Read Banned Books kitchen towel, or do you need one?
I don't have the kitchen towel.
Okay. If I see it again, I found it at a airport store in Minneapolis.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's a store called Frivolous, of all things. And yes, everything is completely frivolous. But if I see another one, I'll grab one for you.
Thank you.
So that's Jill Prouty running in House District 71 against the incumbent Philip Singleton. We also have with us tonight Mr. Fred Rovner running for House District 72. Fred is an Army veteran, but on the good side, he was a medical doctor and has spent his life serving others, not just in the service, but also in the medical field. Dr. Rovner, thank you for joining us tonight. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what's going to make you a great upgrade under the Gold Dome for Bob Trammell.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, my name is Fred Rovner, and it just goes to show that we can all get along. I mean, I get along with a Marine, and I'm a former infantry officer, so things got to be going pretty well. Anyway, my name is Fred Rovner, and I am the Democratic candidate for Georgia State House of Representatives, District 72. I've worked for about 25 years as a nurse practitioner in Georgia. However, this is really a second career for me. I taught economics for about 10 years, and I am a former U.S. Army infantry officer and a veteran of the Vietnam War. My wife, Tara, and I have lived in Georgia since 1987. I was actually born in New Mexico, and I grew up in the Southwest. We have a daughter, a son-in-law, 2 grandchildren who keep us pretty busy. All of these folks are also residents of Coweta County. I live in Sonoya, which is, for those of you that are unfamiliar with Coweta County, is way out there to the east. That part of this county is part of District 72. Most of District 72 is in fact Peachtree City and southern Fayette County. Now, whether in my medical career or my military career, what I have found is really important is honor, integrity, and truth. So why am I running? I'm running for the state legislature because it has become abundantly clear that we here in Georgia need to change the way we do business. We face a lot of problems, some of which are of our own making. We have a crisis in healthcare. We have a crisis in voting. We have a crisis in education. We also need to pay a lot better attention to our state infrastructure. And I have some concerns about the way veterans are treated in Georgia. Let me, my time is limited, so let me just briefly cover some of these topics. Healthcare. There can be little dispute that the healthcare system in Georgia has been failing us for years and has been brought to the brink of collapse by COVID-19. For years, I've served the disadvantaged in emergency departments, clinics, jails, and prisons throughout Georgia. I understand this crisis, and I know why it's there. On my opponent's watch, Georgia has become the most dangerous state in the nation to be a pregnant woman. I noticed that Reverend Warnock mentioned maternal mortality rate or maternal death rate. Actually, it's worse than he says. As an average, we have 3 to 4 times the maternal death rate of the national average. That's for white women. If you happen to be another ethnic group, it could be as high as 6 times the national average. Our death rate for infants is higher than the national average by 2 to 3 times. And under the Kemp government, we have watched while 9 of our rural hospitals have closed. And when they close, most of the best jobs in the county go with them. Georgia is not a safe place to be a woman or an infant. Voting rights. Denying fellow citizens the right to vote is not democracy, it's elitism. Jack is as good as his master, and Jack should be able to vote. I will work to expand the vote. I want to hear from all of our communities. I oppose voter suppression in whatever form it takes, whether it's racial, economic, religious, or cultural. Education. Education in Georgia is poorly funded and inequitably distributed. If people are not provided with the skills that they need to compete, then they will not be able to compete. Public monies should be used on public institutions only. I mentioned veterans earlier. Here in Georgia, we like to think that we revere our veterans. Well, if this is so, then why does Georgia have some of the highest veterans incarceration rates, veterans suicide rates, and veterans homeless rates in the nation? The Georgia Department of Veteran Services is not adequately funded, does little research or outreach, and is even closed on weekends. We've got to change some of this. Infrastructure. Communications and internet services need to be available throughout the state. Not just because of education, but because of business. Universal broadband connection in all of rural Georgia would be a good start. Georgia's 20th century power grid and transportation networks need to be brought into the 21st century if we expect to attract businesses. Since I'm talking about economic issues, improved communications and improved transportation will help streamline businesses, provide for innovation, and promote job growth. This crisis that we face is due in large part to poor management of the very basic functions of government. Due to cronyism, corruption, unresponsive representation, and representatives more interested in single issue politics than in government and good government and the needs of their constituents. During the Vietnam War, I served our nation as an infantry officer. And in combat and in the Operations Center, I learned how to listen, make tough decisions, and to lead. I'm a former Republican who is fed up with what has become of my father's GOP. However, I am prepared to work with members of the legislature of goodwill of any party in order to help solve these problems. A good start would be a return to civility and an end to self-interest, special interests, and divisiveness. A vote for Fred Rovner is a vote for responsive and responsible government. Since I'm a retiree, the only job that I will have will be to represent the residents of District 72. I'm a Democrat, but more importantly, I'm a neighbor, a teacher, a healthcare provider, a veteran, and someone with the experience to help solve the serious problems which our community faces today. My motto is honor, integrity, and the truth. If you want to learn more about me, you can check out my website at fredrovnerforgeorgia.com. I have a Facebook page, Fred Rovner for Georgia House 72. Are there any questions?
If you have a question, just shout it out because it'd be a little bit easier.
Yeah.
than going in there. Speaking as someone who was trained to be a basic infantry officer, the leadership lessons you learn there and the time critical decisions you make prepare you for not just being able to make those decisions, but for being able to build those relationships with the people you lead and the people you work with. If you have survived that kind of environment as a leader, you understand what it means to be a true servant leader, to put the needs of the people you work for first. And remember that if you take care of them, then they'll take care of you. That's the kind of leadership we're going to get with Fred Rovner. Now, are there any questions for him? If there are, shout them out and you'll become the speaker. Hearing none, before we move on to Bob Trammell, who's going to close us out, I do want to highlight a couple things for us tonight. We've got not just all the races we've talked about, we have two other important races on the docket for us in November. They're going to be the most important races that you have never heard of, the Public Service Commissioner races. And we've got Robert Bryant and Daniel Blackman running for Public Service Commissioner. Okay, the Public Service Commissioner handles all of our utilities. They handle things like our power rates. They handle things like coal ash pond cleanup. They handle Plant Vogel and the troubles that we have had there. Those two races are, as Stacey Abrams said, the most important ones that you've never heard of. They're not high profile, but they're statewide positions. These are Democrats that we need to get elected out there. If we talk about turning Georgia green and greening Georgia and making this state more sustainable, if we want to have Georgia ready for the 21st century, to build that green energy, to build that Green New Deal, to have renewable sources of power, we have to have smart, caring people as our public service commissioners. So make sure when you fill out your ballot, don't skip over those. Vote for vote for Robert Bryant and Daniel Blackman. Make sure that we get those public service commissioner seats in. Those are statewide races again. So I promise you, if we can elect 2 Democrats to the United States Senate this year, which we absolutely can, we can also elect 2 Democrats to our Public Service Commission for Georgia. Now, our last speaker tonight, I like to talk about him because he's not just my rep, he's a fantastic rep. When you look through the news, you'll see one face out there in front fighting for us every single day in the legislature. You'll see him down in Athens, winning races down there that he shouldn't be competing in. You'll see him up in Henry County, helping first-time candidates like Elma D. Holly was a couple, half a dozen special elections ago, it seems like, win their races and bring some good representation. You'll see him up in Northeast Georgia, up in Northwest Georgia, helping those candidates get their campaigns running and challenging in seats that haven't been challenged in decades, and more than that, winning those races. That's what it's going to take to make the big changes we need in Georgia. And I am so proud and happy to have with us tonight the Georgia House Minority Leader, Representative Bob Trammell, who is in the race of his life. Bob, give us an update and tell us what we can do to help keep you under the gold dome.
Well, Chuck, first of all, thank you so much for that kind introduction and for your steadfast support for organizing this event. I want to thank the Coweta County Democratic Party and all the Democrats on this call. You know, I'm so grateful for all our Democratic candidates who are willing to step up and run in in 2020, what is the most consequential election of our lifetime. But I want to say a particular thanks to Jill and Fred for taking on those legislative races in what is shaping up to be an oh so important race in 2020, where we literally have a chance to flip the Georgia House going into the 2020 election. My kids are 7, 6, and 2. Mary is my 7-year-old. Virginia just turned 6, and my son Bob is 2. This is the first election where I think that Mary and Virginia are really dialed in to what it means to participate in the democratic process and what elections mean. And I can tell you that as a father, I'm very concerned about our future. It's very concerning to me that for the last 4 years, I haven't been able to watch the news with my children because I'm afraid the President of the United States will come on and say something that I can't explain or defend to them why an adult would say that. I'm very concerned about the direction of our state. But the one thing that I can tell you is that one of the most exciting parts about 2020 is there are very clear contrasts for every choice that you have on the ballot. And I'm very, very proud of our Democratic slate, starting with the Biden-Harris ticket, down the Senate races, all the way down to the local level. But what I want to tell you about just for a minute is what's at stake in the Georgia legislature. You know, for the last 6 years, it's been my honor to represent House District 132. And one of the fights that I've been honored to fight year after year is the fight to try to obtain coverage for 500,000 Georgians who could have coverage if we just simply expanded Medicaid, just like 38 other states have already done. Georgia remains one of only 12 states that has not expanded Medicaid, and as a consequence, our rural hospitals are more vulnerable than they've ever been. As you heard earlier tonight, 9 in the last decade have closed or announced closure. And in the face of COVID-19, these healthcare crises are more acute than ever. And let's be honest, the Affordable Care Act is in the most precarious position it's ever been in. Challenged by Republicans' Attorney General and this presidential administration, now with the death of Justice Ginsburg and a vacancy on the Supreme Court, and that challenge coming up to this term to be decided, another challenge to the Affordable Care Act. Overnight, the protections that millions of Americans and millions of Georgians have taken for granted under the Affordable Care Act for the coverage for pre-existing conditions could go away. So it's going to be vital that we elect candidates in 2020 that understand just how important and how vital healthcare is to our country, to our economy, to our families. When we go back in the General Assembly, we'll obviously have to talk about and deal with the consequences of COVID. And the contrast to the approaches between Democratic candidates and the Republican administration could not be more stark. We, at the very top, and the president. We have a president of the United States who chose to ignore and sweep under the rug COVID and the severity of it because he didn't want to cause panic and then jeopardize his poll numbers in the stock market. And we lost valuable time where we could have been preparing and addressing and confronting the pandemic head on. Here in Georgia, we have a governor who has chosen a route that has defied science at many times. And we have also seen a reluctance to do very basic things like mandating a mask that could protect and save many lives and that could help our economy as people have resumed confidence in going out and participating in the economy and going back to work just by wearing a mask. You know, last session in the General Assembly, I fought against a budget that took $1 billion out of our classroom, away from our teachers and students during the midst of a global pandemic, when they needed that money more than they ever have before to be prepared and to be safe. In this race, my opponent and the Washington special interests behind him are spending $1 million, $1 million to buy the seat. It's everything that's wrong with politics. My vote has never been and will never be for sale, because we've got to put people ahead of special interest. Finally, I just want to say this. If you haven't voted yet and you're listening to this, make a plan to vote. Help the candidates that you've heard from tonight and other candidates who are running. But I want you to know, and I want you to communicate with between now and Election Day, every voter that you come in contact with and every potential voter, this very important message. Your vote matters. No matter what the President of the United States says, no matter what anybody else tries to tell you, your vote matters. This is the most consequential election of our lives, and your vote is the most consequential vote that you'll ever cast. We must chart a different course for the future. And we have Democratic candidates up and down the ballot who are prepared to chart that way forward to us to a positive future. Thank you, and God bless you, and do everything you can in the next 33 days to work, and encourage people to get out to vote. Happy to answer any questions if we have time.
We've got time. Bob's the last speaker for the evening. Bob, again, thank you for taking time out of your busy, hectic day with family obligations and running this tough race that you've got thrown at you. If there are any questions for Bob, go ahead and shout them out. And of course, no questions for Bob, because we all trust him, because he cares about us, because he's the kind of representative that everybody wishes they had. He's the, like I said, I could not be happier with how I'm represented under the Gold Dome. We just need to give him a few more friends. So here's what we need.
I'll ask a question.
Oh, Jill. Yes, of course. Sorry, Jill, go ahead.
As far as Medicaid expansion, it seems like a no-brainer. Leaving federal dollars on the table like that. Bob, what is the argument that the GOP gives for not supporting it?
It's a great question, and the argument has sort of mutated over time. Initially, the argument was that the funding level the preferable funding level would not be there for very long, that it would go away. And that's proven over and over again not to be true. States, again, 38 states have expanded Medicaid. We lost out on the 100% funding for the federal, from the federal government for the 3-year period, but it's still being funded at 90 cents on the dollar, which is superior to the Medicaid rate that we get as the state for our regular Medicaid. In all honesty, it just comes down to crass politics. They didn't like the fact that it came out of the Affordable Care Act, which was under President Obama, and they fought it over and over again, and they painted themselves into a corner. But the consequence of that was seen very severely because you can take a map of where COVID had a lot of the worst outbreaks, and the hospitals were overrun, where people were often the sickest, they had comorbidities, where they hadn't been to the doctor in a long time in many cases because they lacked coverage, and had catastrophic outcomes. And in part, that was due to a failure to expand Medicaid, where people had not had the same access to healthcare that they could have had if they'd had Medicaid expansion. So thank you for that question. I mean, I think it is a no-brainer. It's something that on a moral level we should have done. On an economic level we should have done, because it could have bolstered and stabilized the rural hospitals and been a real boost to provide jobs in the healthcare sector all across the state.
And as a follow-up, hang on, Fred. As a follow-up, in the news recently, Kemp has been in the news talking about, tell us more about him wanting to take the marketplace off the table for Georgians. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do. That's part of a waiver proposal that he submitted. And basically it would take away what most people are using when they obtain the healthcare coverage on the federal marketplace exchange, and replace that with a very uncertain set of insurance that I hope that people have had the opportunity to submit comments. It's very, very risky proposition where we would be flying and charting a very unstable course, and it's certainly not a good way forward when it comes to obtaining healthcare insurance and protections.
I had a question on a different issue, and that is House Bill 1166. I'm sure you're aware that some of our local, I hesitate to call them representatives, but local members of the legislature have decided that our schools are getting too much money, and they want to limit that. Could you comment on that? And this is a referendum that will appear on ballots in Coweta and Fayette County.
So you'll have to help me with the House bill numbers.
Well, it's House Bill 1166. It was put on the ballot by Josh Bonner, Singleton, and some other character. I think he was from Spalding County. I can't remember where. But anyway, what it does is it caps funding for public schools by basically capping the amount that a person can be taxed in property taxes. He's taken that power away from the school systems and the county commissions. That's what this bill proposes to do, and solidify this tax base at a lower rate. It's a cheap, in my opinion, it's a cheap attempt to buy votes. You tell people, we'll give you a few bucks back at the end of the year if you vote for me, but at the expense of our students, our schools, and our communities. Do you know any more about that?
Yeah, so the property, the ad valorem tax exemptions for schools, school taxes, they go through the local school board. I'm not supportive of anything that doesn't have the local school board approval. When it goes through that process to get on a referendum, then that goes to the voters, and sounds like that's what's done there. What I would comment on is that there's no question that in the General Assembly, we certainly have seen efforts, both with $1 billion cut, efforts to divert funds away from public school funding that have detrimental impact on education of our students, who are, the future, not only for us as a state, but when it comes to the economy, I mean, that's the talent of tomorrow. So when we take money away, I mean, we're literally, we're taking money out and not investing in economic opportunity that we will have from a workforce standpoint. in the future, and not that long, not that far away. I mean, 10 years is not far out.
And from a strictly pragmatic point of view, if we're not going to prepare our own technicians, our own engineers, our own doctors, and our own administrators and so on in this state, we're going to try to attract them to a state that has crappy health care from out of state. We're going to try to drag them in from, I don't know, New York. I don't think so. We either produce the goods here, or we're going to be backward and forgotten.
Yeah, no, the other thing I want to say is that, you know, one thing that I like to think about in terms of Georgia is I like to think about Georgia as a talent magnet. And are we adopting policies that will draw people to Georgia where they'll want to come work, spend their lives, raise their families? And unfortunately, you know, in Georgia, a lot of times healthcare is certainly a prime example of that. But there have been too many times where on social issues, the legislature has put forward some regressive type social policy that just turns people off. And they think about Georgia in a way that Georgia is a backward state. And we can't do that. We very much need to look to the future. We need to be a progressive state where people want to come. They want to come to Georgia. And they want to live, work, and play here. And that's the type of policy that we need to make sure we're enacting. So thank you so much for those questions.
Yeah, and I'm going to jump in here. Bob, so obviously, like I said, you're in a tough race. I know you said it probably a couple of times in there. What's the website so people can go and volunteer and help with those postcards or donating and getting those signs and all the things we need to do to keep you in Atlanta?
Yeah, so go to Bob, it's very simple, bobtrammell.com. And I just want to say one other thing. This party has been so good. And when somebody is, when they're spending $1 million in attack ads, both in television and digital and radio and mail, I want to personally thank every member of this county party that has taken the time to comment and say, you know, I support Bob Trammell, or, you know, that's not right. That's not who Bob Trammell is. And I want to encourage you to do that up and down the ticket in these next 33 days, because we are in for a battle. That's what it means to be a battleground state. And so, you know, do that, because people are watching and people are paying attention. Your friends, neighbors, and family trust you, and they trust who you know. So thank you for doing that, and just keep doing it.
Bob, thank you for all the work you've done under the Gold Dome for us. And we're going to make sure you get to keep doing that for as long as Jenny lets you do it. For everybody else here, that's all the candidates we have tonight. Thank everybody for coming. A couple things to wrap up, so don't leave just yet. For everybody here and everybody watching, make sure you have a plan to vote. We recommend getting your absentee ballot online through the ballot request portal at ballotrequest.sos.ga.gov. Get it, fill it out in that nice black ink. We've got a video to help you do that on our website, cowetademocrat.com. It talks you through from checking your registration, getting your ballot requested, and how to fill it out and how to drop it off. We recommend, again, using that safe ballot drop box right outside the Board of Elections here in Coweta County at 22 East Broad Street. And again, our video shows you the whole process, making sure that your ballot is complete, correct, and delivered safely so that we can all have our voice heard. If you have problems, reach out to the party or call the DPG's Voter Protection Hotline at 888-730-5816. Double check that. Yeah, that's 888-730-5816. They have people standing by, teams of attorneys and other voting experts, to make sure that you are able to cast your vote safely and effectively. I'm not going to lie, there are threats on election day. Vote early, vote via your absentee ballot. It is safe, it is simple, it is secure. They are going to be tabulated early, and if we vote, if we go out, get our absentee ballots and vote on election night, Georgia will go for Joe Biden, and it will be all over for this presidency that we have had to endure for so long. That's what's at stake. It really is a battle for the very soul of our nation, and it's a battle that we have to win. Now, one last thing here, just for the video, I want to thank everybody for showing up. We're going to put this on YouTube so that other people can see it, like it, share it, put it on Facebook, give it to your friends. For any candidates that are still here, we're going to have your individual portions sliced up and available for either for both on YouTube and downloadable via a Google Drive account if you want to use anything for your own advertisements. But right now, I would like everybody here that's still on to turn on your microphone and turn on your cameras. Because what I would like is for about 5 seconds of just 5 to 10 seconds of just wild scream for this Democratic Party that we've got. So go ahead and unmute yourselves, turn on your cameras. I'm seeing a lot more of our friendly, wonderful faces here, and that's great. Everybody except my family, that's okay, I can crop them out. They're upstairs. So everybody on 3, just do some cheering and clapping and arm waving and show your excitement for this Democratic ticket. 1, 2, 3. So go out and vote. Thank you everybody for coming. Thank you for our candidates for attending. Make a plan to vote, follow that plan, and let's go flip Georgia blue. Have a great night. Thank you.
Yay!